Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the 17th installment of the First and Inches Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Michael O'Brien, here with my fantastic, freshly pierced co-host, Mr.
Aidan Florscher.
Show off the ice, son. I'm iced out, cuz.
Yeah, I decided in between episodes to run and get my ears pierced to look cool for the internet. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
But
gotta swag out for the pod, dude.
yeah, the First and Inches check came in, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? You know, I gotta flex up a little bit.
YouTube sent us a check for 73 cents, and we're like, time to fucking ball out.
That'll pay for a fifth of the piercing.
Yeah. We're gonna do something that we haven't done ever on this, right? We've done.
No.
We usually, we do the pick of episodes every week. That's our bread and butter. And we'll throw in a different episode. We've done NFL reviews. We've done power rankings. We've done hot takes. We've done fantasy episodes. So on and so forth.
Now we're just gonna bring it forward with just a little stories about sports times. You know,
Welcome to Story Time with First and Inches. We're
Sit
trying
down.
something a little different. Sit down, grab whatever you need.
grab a book.
Sit by the fireplace, get a blankie, whatever
Put
you
those
want.
cozy socks on.
Yeah, get some fuzzies on, some sweatpants.
Maybe a jar of peanut butter
I was gonna say a hot cocoa,
would be awesome.
a hot rail of meth, whatever you need.
After these stories, you might want to rail.
Yeah, we got some wild stories here. I want you to kick it off with the one we've been talking about a little bit the last couple of days, because it's fucking wild as fuck.
I want to introduce you to the bizarre death of Len Konecki.
This guy was a madman.
Len Konecki is someone you've probably never heard of, but you honestly should, because this guy is an absolute maniac.
Savage.
So let me give you a little bit of the backstory. So back in the 30s, oh my God, that was what are these dicks doing out there? We're trying to record.
I'm trying to do a pod.
All right, back to the story.
It's not a me.
In 1931, the Giants manager John McGraw was very excited about reports of about this prospect from Louisville, the Colonials. Colonials. So he traveled about 100 miles east to scout him, right? So it turned out this guy was an absolute wash, but McGraw saw like a little diamond in the rough somewhere else. He was an outfielder. He had an arm. He had a bat. His name was Len Konecki.
Lenny baby. Lenny Ken.
Yeah, Lenny B. So in quotes from Giants manager himself, he said, "I bought him for a lot of money." It's kind of funny.
He said to the owner, "I bought him for a lot of money."
Yeah. Basically, McGraw was wrong, and that guy that he passed on for Len ended up being a Hall of Famer.
What was his
name?
Ben McGraw, right? That was his name?
Yes. He ended up signing with the Cubs and having like a Hall of Fame outfield career.
He's a Hall of Famer, yeah.
But it's kind of hilarious that he was like, nah. But I love this guy, Lenny. So
I'm going to buy him for a lot of money.
Yeah. The lot of money that McGraw relinquished for Leonard was $75,000.
That's a lot for back then.
And I think it was.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah, and it was
they sold a few other players to get the money.
Yeah, they sold a bunch of other players, and this guy, he was replacing this guy named Terry, who was pretty ass, honestly. He had poor fielding. And that's about it. That's all I really learned about this dude Terry. And then Konecki started pretty rough with a 179 batting average.
Tough start for the kid.
As his career started coming on, Konecki started really, really, really turning up.
He made an all-star team, right? If I read the article correctly.
Yeah, he did. He had a 334 average for the Bisons in 33, which enticed Brooklyn to give him another opportunity. And the outfielder did not fail this time because when he was struggling, I forgot to say, when he was struggling earlier, they sent him down to the lower level.
Yeah,
so they gave him another
Double-A,
chance.
I believe. Yeah.
And when he came back up in 34, he led the Dodgers in on-base percentage, OPS, and he tied the team lead for home runs and finished second in batting average. I mean, apparently a lot of this has come back from, like, his manager, Casey Stengel, who was, like,
pretty good manager, I'd say.
That guy was decent at his job.
He was great. So
he was all right. That guy was decent.
He turned Lenny from a poor hitter to a great hitter, and the New York Times even labeled him the new Flatbush hero. Which
it's nuts.
That's where he was from, which is a pretty cool thing that we don't know about.
He played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. Ebbets Field was directly on Flatbush Avenue.
Yeah,
so it's pretty
the
fucking
new Flatbush
awesome.
hero. But this didn't
baby.
last, man. I mean, Konecki showed up for spring training in 1935. 1 year later, overweight. And then when the season began, he was sagging behind his teammates very, very far. And the Dodgers were like, they were not doing well. By September 16th, they were 27 games out of first place. And, you know, the manager decided that what his future might hold by testing out some younger players through the end of the season. So that meant that Konecki got benched for maybe the last few series, which he did not like at all. He was pissed. He ended up just kind of like settling in with the bench spot and not really antagonizing too many people about it. But this one certain trip to St. Louis, there was a problem. It was from St. Louis to New York, back home. And there was connections in Chicago and Detroit. So this explains why there was so many landing and not landing, which I was confused off at first.
Yeah.
So upon boarding, Konecki began drinking a lot. And
he got a little sauced up, dude. He got a little hammered.
Quoted from the article, he was arguing ferociously with one of the 7 other passengers aboard the first plane. So I mean, he's already not in the right state of mind there.
He's drinking gin on the rocks and starting fights with stewardesses.
He's blacked
said
out.
it like that. Yeah, he's trash.
So like, speaking of stewardesses, one came to calm him down, right? And she was like, "Yo,
relax.
You're like 20. We gave you like 20 gin on the rocks. Now you're gonna be a dickhead? Come on." So
you're better than this, Len.
Yeah. He knocked her to the floor. He was like, "You bitch." With that, both of the pilots got up from where they're controlling the plane, and they attacked Lenny. You know what I'm saying? Like, they wanted to
get this guy the fuck out of here. Yeah.
Get him off the fucking plane. They escorted him off and told him to find his own way home. Yeah. Later that night, Konecki was like, "Okay, I need to get back to Brooklyn somehow." He contacts then pilot William Joseph Mulqueeny, who said, "Yep, I'll fly to New York, no problem."
Sounds like a nice Italian fella.
Mulqueeny? Is that
a joke? That was a joke.
Oh. I'm like, are you serious?
That dude is the most Irish guy in New York in 1935. Mulqueeny.
So, Len and William took off at about 10 p.m. with one other guy. Never really said much about him, and he was sitting alongside the pilot, chilling out, ready for his flight home. Soon, the ball player
started to snooze off the gin off the rocks.
Nudge the pilot like this.
Yeah.
For about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Like when you have a crush on a girl in 6th grade and you start kicking her leg.
Yeah. Like, he was going full, like, 5-year-old at this point. And yeah. The pilot obviously was like, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing, Len? I offered to drive you home, and now you're going to do me like this?" Len, the nut job he is, and how belligerently drunk he is, responded by lunging for the controls. It's got to be probably one of the worst things you could ever do in that situation. It's like, "Oh, he told me to stop. Let's fly the plane.
Let's fly the plane. Fuck this guy."
So the pilot, like,
obviously is very concerned.
Yeah, he's very concerned. And then he's like, "Yo," the guy in the back seat was named Irwin. He was like, "Yo, switch spots with Irwin." I mean, honestly, I would have been like, "Yo, we're landing this plane now. This guy's like, I'm not dealing with this guy anymore." He's a nice pilot. He's like, "You know what? That's 2.
He's trying to do his job.
That's not 3 strikes. You know what I'm saying? He had 2 strikes.
2. He did have 2. He was nudging him, and he was nudging him, and he tried to put the plane to the Atlantic. 2 strikes.
Yeah, so the third strike, after sitting behind the pilot for it was like estimated 3 minutes. This is the best part. He starts grabbing the pilot's neck from behind him.
Homer Simpson.
like Homer Simpson. You!
Full Homer. Doh!
Toy! Like, it made 0 sense for the moment. The pilot goes, you know what? That's it. He gets up. He starts grappling Len for 15 minutes. It's rocking the aircraft. It's rolling from one to side.
Yeah, they said the aircraft was like spinning over and shit.
Yeah. And like apparently like Len was like so much bigger than the pilot, so the pilot was just like, help, like you're in the.
This is the most insane. This is one of the most insane stories I've ever heard in my life. Honestly,
it's funny. So as he's crying for help, he reaches with his one hand while he's also flying the plane with the other. It's amazing that he did this. He takes the fire extinguisher and bashes Len over the head with it, which he says later served only to antagonize the ball player. But I don't know if I buy that when this guy tried to kill, pretty much
full self-defense
at
that point.
Yeah, it's full. So by the time Konecki was subdued, the pilot had no idea where the fuck the aircraft was. They ended up being in Toronto, and then the first racetrack they found, they just landed. So like, they called the police. Police arrived. Konecki was dead.
Very
Skull
dead.
Caved in. No longer breathing. Like
he got hit with a fire extinguisher in the dome.
Multiple times. Like,
yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. No, he's probably not shocked to find out that dude just was deceased on the spot.
So upon receiving the news, he was still technically on the team at this point, so they pretended to kind of like care. So they all wore like black armbands for the following day game against St. Louis. I mean, it's not like this guy died out of misfortune.
It wasn't really. Yeah, it wasn't like a tragic accident. This dude was drunk as fuck and trying to take over a plane.
Yeah. So yeah, let me sum this up really quick. So Mulqueeny was like later arraigned on manslaughter charges by the family, and it only took the jury 10 minutes to return a verdict of self-defense, which is like amazing.
Insane! It's insane. That's nuts.
Like, I mean, 15 people sat there and were like, you know what? There's absolutely no way this guy murdered this man on purpose. Like, there's no intent of McQueenie going up there and be like, oh, I'm going to kill Len today. It was probably quite the opposite.
No, he's like, I'm trying to fly this dude and make a little cash, and then this dude starts trying to fucking put the brake on and wrestle me.
Yeah. And his final statement, Mulqueeny, before he left the trial was, I wish I could take those blows back. And I'll end it there. Rest in peace, Len Konecki.
R.I.P. to a legend, honestly. That dude, kind of a beast.
Kind of a nut job.
Definitely a nut job. Yeah. Wow. What a start.
We're going to hear that story about, like, A.B. in a few years, probably.
Yeah. A.B.'s going to go haywire and, like, fucking beat up a limo driver.
Len.
Yeah, he's going to pull oh, my God. A.B.'s going to pull a Len Konecki. Jesus.
All right. Enough with Len. Let's move on to your story.
What a start.
To hear what you got to say and what you bring to the table.
I'm going to start off. If you're a fan of baseball, if you're like a baseball nerd like me and Mr. Florscher over here, you're probably pretty well aware that throughout the history of baseball, drugs have been pretty prevalent.
Oh, it's been rampant.
Prevalent, not prevalent. What the fuck am I saying? Prevalent. Drugs have been very prevalent for baseball's history. People accuse Babe Ruth of being on like meth and shit. baseball players, 50s, 60s, 70s, were doing greenies, which was
And it was also a lot more accepted back then, too.
It was socially accepted. Well,
craziest thing.
Yeah, no, like if you look at like old baseball players talking about greenies, they were like, they were just like on the clubhouse table. Like if you weren't taking them, you were an idiot. Like,
I think you should explain to like the people what greenies are, because I didn't know what they were.
Greenies are Dexamil, which is it was just like Adderall basically.
Okay,
But,
like a stim.
Yeah, it was a stimulant. Yeah, it was a stimulant. They were just doing amphetamines and fucking going doubleheaders every day, which is nuts. And then obviously we know, just in general, but definitely in baseball, cocaine was very prevalent in 80s, 70s
Another
even.
stimulant. I mean, there seems to be a correlation.
Makes sense. You're playing 162 games a year. You need a little boost. Yeah, doing 11 greenies before the game. Third base like this. Jaw moving.
Yeah, I feel like it must heighten your like hand-eye coordination. You know?
Yeah, definitely. If you take like 6 Adderall, you're probably pretty good at catching a line drive.
You're like an airbender at that point. It's like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
7 greenies.
But not as common a drug in baseball, crack cocaine.
You shouldn't be doing that, people. Not in baseball, not in life.
No, you definitely should never do crack cocaine. Unless you're a Dennis Oil Can Boyd.
That's a boss name.
All right. Dennis Oil Can Boyd, professional pitcher, pitched for the Red Sox for quite some time. Actually pitched in the big leagues for a decade. And he admitted every day in the 1986 season where the Red Sox made the World Series, he smoked crack.
What a beast, man. It's not like, I did some Adderall. No, I smoked crack every single day of the season.
No, it wasn't like one of the socially acceptable drugs in baseball. Everyone in baseball back then was doing cocaine. Yeah, everyone back then was snorting coke or doing greenies, and this guy was smoking crack.
Didn't you say something how he smoked it in the locker room?
Yeah, I'm getting to it. He said, Boyd said May 11th, 1986, on his start against Oakland, he smoked crack before taking the mound. He said, I get to the ballpark, all the ball players are on the field, taking batting practice and everything. I walk in the clubhouse, and I got my pipe with me. I can remember going and locking myself. Oil can does what oil can does. I mean, I can remember going and locking myself up in the bathroom and smoking some dope right there at the ballpark. I was afraid that they knew and that the clubhouse manager had smelled it. He was going to tell on me. So I got rid of it. I had it under the bib of my cap, inside the crease of my hat. I was warming up in the ball game, 3rd or 4th inning. It fell off of my head. So this dude had crack in his hat. Was high as fuck on crack. Had it in his hat. Wind it up a little too hard, and vials of crack just spilled all over the mound at Fenway Park.
Oh my god. That is literally the grit. But, that's low-key, not the most crack that's been at Fenway Park.
No, probably. Nowadays, it's probably more just, Percocets falling out in the stands. But, yeah.
Wait,
and then he said...
wait, hold on. I have something to add. My favorite part of that whole story is he went to do crack in the locker room. And then he was like,
the clubhouse bathroom.
I'm scared that the coach is going to find me. You didn't think about that before? Why didn't you just, do it before? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
beforehand?
One of the crazier parts about the story is that he said his teammates knew about it. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. His teammates. I'm sure. Yeah. That makes sense. Some of his teammates.
You can't hide crack cocaine addiction.
Yeah. It's not like he's smoking weed or something. It's not like he
probably stealing from all the teammates. And he probably weighs 70 pounds.
Yeah, this is true. But it said he would occasionally talk about his crack usage with a team doctor and minority owner, Arthur Pappas, but was never drug tested. So he said, I would come into the ballpark. Pappas would call me in the back. He would say, how do you feel? Did you do some last night? I was honest with him. Yes, I did. Okay, so that was my drug test. You got me? Ain't nobody made me pee in no cup.
So basically what the Browns said to Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, but instead of... honestly, smoking crack's a lot more respectable than groping a woman.
No, you know what I'm saying? It's comparable. It's did you do this? Yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah, but that's always been the case in sports, man. If you're a good enough athlete, they don't give a fuck. which is kind of sad, but also like it makes
Sports
sense.
just makes
I
money.
understand why it's yeah, for sure. But that's crazy that they knew about it. Yeah, here's what he said after the crack fell out of his hat. Every other pitch, I pick it up, put it on. So it's one time, I'm so into what I'm doing, I forgot the dope is under my hat. I look on the ground, I'm like, damn, there's little rocks everywhere. So I play it off as I'm walking back. I pick it up like dirt, picking up shit, mashing it into the ground. Boyd won a career-high 16 games in 1986 with a 3.78 ERA, helping the Red Sox win the American League pennant. So this dude had the best year of his
fucking Georgia pine.
Dude, yeah, this dude had the best year of his career on crack for every day. That's so insane.
And they tell you not to do crack. Like, come on.
Yeah, there's a
Garrett Cole on crack. Like, he would probably be, like, incredible.
Yeah, it gives you superpowers, dude. Have you ever seen the videos of, like, crackheads, like, lifting up cars?
Yeah, the crackhead powers.
Superhuman strength. Yeah, maybe you'd hit more than 150 in the playoffs.
No, but just imagine the contact from the bat to the ball cracked out.
Yeah, that'd be nuts. That was nuts. Yeah, so
that's a great story, man.
This guy, I got a little more. Oil Can Boyd doesn't stop here. This dude's legend.
Where does he get the oil can from? Is that his name? Or is that like...
Yeah, no, I looked it up. No, Dennis is his real name. He got the nickname Oil Can because he used to drink a bunch. Obviously, he likes substances. Yeah.
If he's doing crack,
the town he was from in Mississippi, they used to call beer oil, so his nickname was Oil Can.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
That's a cool nickname, honestly.
Yeah, it's a sick nickname. Boyd had been scheduled to pitch Game 7 of the 86 World Series. That was the classic Bill Buckner game. But that game got postponed, and they turned to left-hander Bruce Hurst, and he'd already won 2 games against the Mets. So here's what Boyd said. McNamara told me he wasn't pitching. He said, I went right down the street to the crack house. He got told he wasn't. Game 7 of the World Series. They're like, oh, no, he got pushed back. We're going to start the other guy. He said, I'll see you next year.
Dude, that is actually the most baller thing anyone has ever done in sports history. He's like, you know what? Peace, I'm going to the crack house. I'm going to go to I'm not going to be with the team.
Yeah, it said during spring training, a drug dealer introduced him to crack. He said he did crack every day, and he lost 40 pounds that year.
Yeah, I could believe it. Do you know
what's even crack every day?
Do you know what's wild that you brought up this story? I was listening to The Fan like on Tuesday, and they were talking about like just the playoffs in general, and they were like they were talking about the postponement of that Yankee game, and they were like, what about that Met game that got postponed, and they pitched that guy instead of that guy? So it ended up being the crackhead because they were afraid of the crackhead.
They got
the
lucky.
Mets didn't want the crackhead.
If Oil Can Boyd was pitching that day,
yeah,
maybe that
they
game
would have had the World Series.
I hope he tweaked out on crack. He might have gone 9.
Dude, he would have went 18 if they needed it. You know what I'm saying?
Give me a second, Skipper. I'm gonna go into the locker room, smoke a little crack.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
Coach Pappas, or whatever his name is.
Dude, Pappas was the owner, minority owner, and team doctor. The team doctor is the funniest part. He would go.
And I feel like that would have conflict of interest, too. The doctor and the owner. Because I feel like the owner would always want the players to play, no?
Yeah, obvious. Well, clearly it was a conflict of interest. He knew this dude was doing crack every day, and he's like, you're fine. You did some last night? You sure you're good? Like,
if you didn't do any, you're sitting.
Yeah. You better. You better smoke a little. Yeah, no, that's crazy. So, yeah, that's Oil Can Boyd for you.
Oh
what a beast.
What a life. Is he still alive?
Yes, shockingly, I looked it up. He still is. Good, he
That's
got
awesome.
clean. Good for him. No, he's like 60-something years old. He's clean
Dude,
now.
we should try to get Oil Can Boyd on the podcast.
100%. That is true. I would freak the fuck out if we got Oil Can Boyd on the pod.
Holy shit.
And he just was telling crack stories. Dude, that would be the greatest episode of this show.
That's our whale.
I'm gonna find him on the internet.
I'm gonna find his contact. Yeah,
him.
we're gonna find his contact.
Yeah, we're gonna attempt to contact Oil Can Boyd now. That's a lock. Dude, how good that would be. Oh my god. Imagine getting Oil Can Boyd on this.
We would have to smoke a little crack with him, right?
I don't think I doubt he's smoking crack anymore. That's why he's still
No, but we're
alive
gonna have
with
to,
us.
or are we gonna low key like try to get him back into it by like talking about the olden days? You know?
Nah, he wrote a book. I'm sure he's open to talking about it. I mean, he was talking
I don't
about
wanna
it in
trigger
his
any-
ESPN article I just quoted.
I don't want to trigger any old habits, you know.
Oh no, I don't want Oil Can Boyd to go back to using crack because of our podcast. That would be horrible. I'd feel really bad about myself.
Oil Can Boyd relapse. No, he might. We're actually definitely ruining our chances of him coming back on the.
I don't want. Listen, Oil Can. We want you.
Boyd.
Mr.
Boyd.
Yes, Mr. Boyd. You are an absolute legend. Great pitcher. Even though we are Yankees fans, you did pitch
And you're
8
an
years for the Red
inspiration
Sox.
to all. That have
No, you're a
suffered
great
through
story.
some
Your
sort
life
of
is a great
addiction.
story. And jokes aside, the fact that you smoke crack every day for a baseball season and didn't die and perform well is amazing. And the fact that you're sober now is
alive
amazing
and healthy
too.
now is awesome.
Yeah, 100%. It's also amazing. Good for you, man. That's
give it up
Oil
for
Can
Len.
Boyd. Let's give it up for
Oil Can.
Dennis Oil Can Boyd, baby. You got another story or no?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, hit me. More stories. Story time.
I got one. We're running it back to the MLB and we're keeping it there. This is honestly just as crazy.
The
as
MLB
Oil
has the
Can
wildest
Boyd.
stories. The MLB has the wildest stories.
So, the title of this story that I'm about to tell is called Yankees Switching Wives, which sounds kind of freaky.
Sounds like a porno title.
Yeah. It's like you're about to see like a fake Aaron Judge and a fake Labor Torres destroy like the Phillies mascots or something.
Fuck the Eiffel Tower, the fanatic.
I mean, yeah, so about this story. So it was the Kikic and the Petersons. They were two families of two pitchers that played for the Yankees in the 1970s. It was Mike Kikic and Fred Peterson became public about this weird ass thing about how, you know, they're kind of switching wives. I mean, that's just not.
They were
something
doing wife swaps. They were doing wife swaps.
They said this,
honestly, that's kind of fucking sick.
and the sickest part
actually,
is
no.
they announced
It sounds cool. The
at
concept.
a spring training event.
They got up in front of like the New York Times. They're like, "Listen, me and Mikey banging each other's wives, and you don't care. We're open to it."
But like the greatest part about this, Mike, I'll get to it later. They quoted, "It wasn't about sex," which.
Yeah, you sure about that guy? I don't believe you. I don't think I believe you.
Okay. Like, what are you just doing? Anal? Like, I don't know what you're doing. So, let me give you a little background on both these guys, because they're not very well known. Maybe if you're a very big Yankee fan, you might have heard of them.
I've never heard of this story
Yeah,
in
me
my
neither,
life. It's
so-
crazy.
Mike Kikic played between 1969 and 1973 for the Yankees and did not have a distinguished career on the mound. Like, he pitched 125 games for the Bombers as a starter, a 31 and 32 win-loss record with a 4 ERA. I mean, it's pretty inefficient. I mean,
No, it's mids.
yeah, I mean,
You're an
it's
average
not the
major league
greatest.
pitcher. Yeah, you're replaceable.
But, like, on the other hand, Fritz Peterson was a hurler, man. He sent balls down the line.
How many years
He
did he play
played-
for the Yanks?
From 66 to 74.
Okay, that's almost
He had
a
a-
decade.
Yeah. He had a 109 and 106 win-loss record with a 3 ERA.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's really solid.
Well, also,
His best-
pitchers back then got decisions in every game because they pitched the entire game, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. His best year was with the Bombers in 1970 when he went 20 for 11 and pitched in the All-Star game. So,
Wow, that's awesome.
the wife swapper is an All-Star.
Good pitcher.
And he had the lowest ratio of walks per innings for any left-handed MLB pitcher since I think it was the 20s, I want to say.
Wow. Oh, so this guy was a beast.
This guy was a really good pitcher. I honestly want to read up a little bit more about him after this anyway. It's
Yeah,
kinda-
I've never heard of this guy.
So basically, the Kikich and the Petersons, they lived in New Jersey, and they were very good friends, right? They started off having a few parties on Saturday, got a couple beers, you know.
Yeah, had a couple Miller High Lifes, whatever they like.
Nothing weird was going on. They were hanging out.
Yeah.
And the couple would drive to these parties to separate cars. And one day, Peterson, he was like, you know what? Would you mind if I went home with Suzanne tonight? To his boy? Like, to, what's his name?
Kickage. Was
Yeah,
Peterson,
Kickage.
Peterson brought it up. Peterson was the mastermind behind this operation.
Yeah, like, they were like, Peterson was like, you know what, Marilyn, you're riding with Mike, who was Fritz's wife. And Suzanne, you're riding with me. And then they would all meet at a diner after, like, before they go home to their separate houses. So I guess they all banged in the car on the way to the diner, ate food, and then went on their separate ways, which is... Just imagine this today. It's so fucking funny. So this happened when they like switched like the cars and they went to the diner that night. The next day they're like, "Yo, we had such a good time.
Your wife's
Go to a
pussy's
steakhouse
fire."
for a night." Yeah, they were like, "Yeah, that crotch." Or they probably said it like this: "Those lady parts be picking."
No, it's not 1920s fucking Ireland, dude. They were probably like, your wife has tight puss. They weren't talking like that.
I'm thinking they're talking in Shakespearean, bro. Thy pussy is delicious. All right, so
what's going on with Peterson? I need more on this story.
Peterson to the Fritzes. So they went to a steakhouse the next night. They upgraded. No diner. They're trying to get it down.
So, a little wine and dine.
Mike and Marilyn, remind you, was Fritz's wife, said, "Let's hit this taco stand early and try to bang. I want a bone." And Fritz and Suzanne were like, "I guess we'll just stay here." Like, I didn't know you guys were like that. They stayed and had a few drinks, and then they ended up all meeting that evening. And it wasn't awkward, surprisingly, which I don't know how that can be awkward when your best friend and your wife literally looked at each other and like, let's go bone.
Yeah, let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah, no, that's a little. I'd be like,
these guys are losers.
Was that Peterson who left?
Yes,
Peterson was the one who left immediately.
Yes.
So Peterson's slinging wood, dude. He's the one who brought it up, and Fritz's wife is like, let's get the fuck out of here.
And look, the story gets even crazier. Mike Peterson falls deeply, like, when I mean, like, not just like a love, like, deeply in love with Fritz's wife. And, like, Marilyn. And the craziest part is, Fritz falls deeply in love with Mike's wife, Suzanne. Like, what the fuck?
So this is crazy.
That's so weird.
So did they officially swap wives? They did like a trade.
I'm gonna get to
the player to be named later.
Yeah. So basically, they fell in love, and they were like, let's just make this a permanent thing. And a lot of the weirdest thing for them was that they had children together before the swapped marriages.
Yeah, it must be a tough scene for those kids.
They decided that all the kids go with their own mothers, but they have to swap fathers.
That's insane. This is clinically insane.
And do you know what the craziest part is?
What?
The dog in each household followed the wife too.
Literally they just traded families.
Yes. Virtually eliminating any players to be named later. That's what the
player to be named later was the dog.
Yeah.
They agreed on that at the end. That was a sweetener.
And I think this was pretty interesting because, like, back in the 70s, I feel like alternative lifestyles and, like, being, like, really, like, sexually open and, like...
That was when it really first started to happen. That's when it
Yeah,
really
but
was
it
starting to
wasn't.
happen.
It wasn't as like open as it is now. Like, I guess if this happened today, it would be as crazy.
I feel like I don't know.
No, because I mean, yes, it was very controversial back then. That's what I'm saying.
I feel like it still would be.
Yeah, I guess. But this is also like a time when like
everyone
sexual liberation was like happening.
Yeah, it was, look at people were just banging in the mud at Woodstock. Like, yeah,
Exactly.
People were just boning.
So when this happened, like the following days when they like made that report at spring training, it was on newspapers,
did they held a press
television
conference
news.
and like
Yes.
told everyone? That's so insane.
And it attracted like an enormous amount of public interest and like attention, like a huge story of that time.
That would make sense. It would be a huge story now.
It is, bro. Literally 2 years later, Kekich was traded to the Cleveland Indians, and Peterson was also traded to the Cleveland Indians a year later.
That's nuts.
Then Fritz ended up retiring 3 years later, and then they never ended up seeing each other again.
That's crazy. So they just swapped families and then stopped talking?
After baseball.
That's wild. That's actually so wild.
It's
these
not
guys
a
still
story
alive?
that like...
What's his name? Dave, you said Mike Peterson?
Yeah. No, David Peterson and...
David Peterson's a Mets pitcher.
Mike Peterson and Fred Fritz Kitchich.
This is insane.
They have to be still alive. I mean, it was only the 70s, right? 50 years. I mean, they'd have to be like 80. I think I did see something.
They're probably still alive, right? Fritz Peterson. There we go. Played for Mike Kekich. He's widely known for trading families with teammate Mike Kekich in the early 1970s. Fritz Peterson and Mike Kekich. Yeah, that's so nuts, man. Yeah, these guys are both. Fritz Peterson is 80 years old and alive, and Mike Kekich is 77 years old and alive beautifully.
And Matt Damon, Matt and Ben Affleck wanted to make like a film about this, and then Peterson got like spooked and then said no.
Really? This would be a sick movie.
Yeah,
that would be a sick movie.
It's and I feel like there's a lot of details unturned too that we don't know. Like,
obviously, for sure.
I would love to know what happened at that steakhouse. Did she like nudge him? Did she like text? Like, obviously she didn't text him, but like
she texted. She texted him.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she wrote a note. Penis.
She probably just gave him a look and said, "Let's get the fuck out of here." What a beast!
Let's blow these losers.
What a legend!
It's my wife.
Well, that's a crazy story.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I thought
hit
I wanted to share it.
Yeah, no, that's great. This one might not be. I don't think it's as like eccentric as the other stories we've told so far.
That's okay.
But, no,
we told some eccentric stories today.
Yeah, no. The oil can boy and the Peterson and Kekich swapping wives, a little nutty. But we're going to talk about the 1985 Pittsburgh drug trials.
Yeah,
this was a scandal, a very big scandal in baseball at the time. I wasn't really aware of until we started like looking up stuff for this episode. It was just a gigantic. A bunch of MLB players got called to grand jury to testify about cocaine use in baseball. So, a bunch of prominent players were involved in this. There were a bunch of suspensions handed out originally, but no one really actually got suspended.
Who were some names called?
The most prominent names called: Keith Hernandez, Dave Parker, Dusty Baker, Vita Blue, Tim Raines.
All guys that you'd assume, probably. I didn't know Dusty Baker was a crackhead like that.
Well, dude, I think it was just so common back then, and cocaine was so socially acceptable in the '80s when it first hit. So
I mean,
and
Keith Hernandez is pretty much Mr. Cocaine.
Well, yeah. The thing you gotta think about it, like when you look at cocaine was so acceptable back then, and everyone who had money was doing it. It was insane. So all these guys are in their 20s, loaded. They're partying in different cities across the country,
drinking, doing blow.
Yeah, getting chicks thrown at them. Like obviously they're gonna, especially in 1982.
Yeah, when they were telling them smoking is okay.
No, you were smoking it. You were smoking in an airplane.
In a doctor's office.
Yeah, So obviously these guys were going to do a little bit of Colombian Bam Bam, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, so I mean, all these players were granted immunity for their testimonies. A lot of crazy things were revealed. Keith Hernandez stated that he estimated about 40% of Major League Baseball players at the time were using cocaine. Just fucking insane. That's insane.
That is wild.
Yeah. The ex-Pirate John Milner, he said he would buy cocaine in the bathrooms at Three River Stadium, like during games. Like Rod Scurry, ex-Pirate, left the stadium to go looking for cocaine during the late innings of a Pirates game. The Pirate Parrot, the mascot, was implicated for buying cocaine and selling it to players.
The Parrot. That's a great nickname.
The Pirate Parrot was pushing a little boogie shugs.
He was pushing a little pee.
Yeah, it's nuts. The craziest thing that was stated, in my opinion, Tim Raines, Hall of Famer, Tim Rock Raines, which is a very ironic nickname when you have this context. he said
that was in the context, bro. Come on.
Probably, yeah. He said he would keep vials of cocaine in his pants during games. He said he was always doing cocaine during games. And he said he only slid head first into bases. He never slid feet first. He only slid head first so he wouldn't break the cocaine vials in his pocket.
So he's like, fuck my well-being. Let's save the cocaine.
Yeah, he said, I only slid into head. He said he only slid into bases head first so as to not break the vial. Yeah, so all these dealers, they prosecuted 6 guys from Pittsburgh. It was all Pittsburgh. The main place for it was the Pirates. I was watching a little bit of an HBO. It's on YouTube. They did a 30 for 30 on it, a little short. I couldn't find it. But there was an HBO, The Real Sports, with Brian Gumbel. They did an interview with 2 of the dealers. It was crazy.
I kind of want to watch that, honestly.
Yeah, just look at Pittsburgh drug trials, and it comes up right away. But very good watch, honestly. But yeah,
That's so interesting how it was so rampant. 40%. That's unbelievable.
That's what Keith Hernandez estimated. Yeah.
I mean, and that's probably a low ball. What is he going to tell the truth?
He said he kind of walked back on it, but that kind of tells me it's probably a higher number than what he said too.
That's what I'm saying. It had to be like 50.
And then this was 85, and we all know what the 86 Mets were doing every fucking night.
Yeah.
The year after that, literally the year after this, and the 86 Mets,
and they weren't toning it down for a year. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, dude. Yeah, So I mean, this is great. It's funny, right? Like, all these guys got suspended, and then everything there was no suspensions actually handed out. All these dudes were they had to donate part of their salaries to drug programs, do community service, drug tests. But a lot of these players said they never actually got drug tested. Yeah, Lonnie Smith, another player who was indicted in all this, he was under agreement that he was supposed to be tested 6 to 8 times a year and had not been tested through 1987, 2 years after the trial. So they didn't give a fuck.
This didn't set any precedent.
It did nothing. Bro, 85. This was happening in 85, and we all know what the 86 Mets were. That's a year after.
That's the craziest part of this whole story is that
it didn't stop anything.
They cracked down on cocaine in 85.
Yeah, a year and a half after the verdicts in July of 1987, Commissioner Uberoff declared that baseball was free of drugs.
And then 86 came around, and then it was like...
No, he declared that in 87.
Oh, okay.
He said baseball's drug-free, guys.
And then steroids come along.
Yeah, cocaine definitely slowed down because everyone started to see what the effects were. A lot of the players that were involved in this did struggle with substances after and died. Rod Scurry died of a cocaine-related heart attack. Willie Aikens
Rest in peace.
Was convicted of selling crack cocaine, and Alan Wiggins died of AIDS from drug use. So a lot of these guys, it clearly didn't stop anything really, especially within the culture of baseball. I mean, cocaine and baseball definitely slowed down. I mean, obviously, because things like that, you die from heart attacks.
I feel like now it's painkillers, right?
Yeah, well, that was the whole Skaggs thing, I'm sure. Right? So
he's not alone.
No chance, dude.
Because if what
drugs have always been prominent in baseball. There's no way they're not still. If you look at every era in baseball, there is a drug of choice. It is just the way the game is. There's no way around it, sadly.
Me being the marijuana advocate, I just think that they should have marijuana programs to steer these guys.
Well,
like, seriously,
I believe that.
I think they should steer them away
for sure.
from the Percocet and the fucking Oxy and all this shit.
Well, I'm sure the Skaggs thing was a real wake-up call on that for the league.
But I don't think they
They
should
had
not
to-
ban it. They should have programs to be like, okay, we're gonna
I agree.
we're gonna hit you up with
that was the
like cannabis knowledge and all this shit. Like, learn
That'd be
how to
great.
heal yourself with cannabis.
I agree. Instead of taking oxycodone,
Yeah,
it's probably better. I
take
agree.
like a tincture when you get home instead.
Yeah. Eat a cookie. Eat a cookie with 30 milligrams.
How hard is that? It's chocolate chip.
Yeah, but that's the Pittsburgh drug trials. It was a very big scandal at the time. Nothing really happened in the court of law outside of the dealers getting all in trouble, obviously. But all the baseball players who testified were granted immunity because they testified.
From the
So nothing-
MLB.
No, from the court of law. From the court.
Okay.
And the MLB handed down
important.
all those suspensions that they walked back and said, if you give so-and-so amount of your salary to drug programs, if you do community service and get drug tested, you're not suspended. That's
And
what the
none of that
policy
shit
was.
happened.
And, yeah, I'm sure they did the salary, but they never
But the
got –
drug
Lonnie Smith
testing.
said he never got drug tested. Yeah.
I wonder if they had to go to rehab, though.
And cocaine use was still rampant through for multiple years of baseball after this happened. So
It's such an odd, like,
I
court
didn't know
hearing,
what happened
you know?
on. Well, it was a big deal because it got leaked that like these guys had a huge cocaine ring in Pittsburgh and like all these baseball players were involved because like they were getting wiretapped. Like the guy was getting wiretapped by the feds, and they're like, "Oh, Vita Blue's at this guy's house with Dave Parker." it's like this
Is
is
he
insane.
pitching tonight?
Yeah, no,
Is he
yeah.
pitching
I
in
was
15 minutes?
Yeah, like I was watching the thing. They said Vita Blue. He said Vita Blue would just come to his house after games and blow out until like 6 in the morning and let it go. Nuts.
Damn, bro.
No.
I had no idea Vita Blue was like that either. Like, I
But dude, that's just baseball back then, man.
no, I know.
Most of those guys
I
are
can't
on
even be
something.
surprised.
Even booze, man. Look at the Yankees in like the 50s and 60s, bro. Those guys were boozing. Mickey Mantle was a booze bag. He
During
was
the game?
drunk. I'm pretty sure that he played. He was like a known alcoholic. Yeah.
CC?
See, but I don't think CC was drunk in games ever. I watched that documentary. He said
Never.
no.
He would do
He
that,
said he-
like, 3-day detox and then black out for 4 days.
Yeah. What a legend. I love CC.
I feel so
Shout out to
bad.
him for getting sober. What a beast.
He looked great.
Good for
man.
him. He might be easily in my top 3 favorite Yankees of all time.
Me too. Fat
Yeah.
CC, there was nothing. When he got skinny, I was pissed.
Yeah, no, he got skinny and then stunk. He's like, I guess I gotta get fat again. And then was a beast again. What a legend. I love him so much. But that was story time with First and Inches.
Hope you enjoyed, guys.
I hope you guys learned something new. Hope you guys had some fun. Enjoying learning about Oil Cam Boyd, some wife swaps, little Lenny
Len.
Konecki.
And
Yeah, so
ended
thank
off
you
the
guys for
Pittsburgh
listening.
drug trial.
Like and subscribe. Hit all the buttons. Comment. Whatever. Put it on MySpace, Facebook, Twitter. I don't know. Whatever you want. Truth Social.
4chan.
I don't fucking care. Yeah. I
Put it
don't
on
care.
Beeple.
Yeah. Wherever you want. Subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. Follow our social medias. They'll be in the bio. Thank you guys for listening. We love all of you. Peace.